Hello and welcome to the Founders Tech Playbook podcast, and I am your host Hannah. Today, we're focusing on a critical topic for many entrepreneurs: the key considerations for non-tech founders when building a tech company. I have with me Nadine, who is an engineering leader with more than 2 decades of experience in building tech products for a variety of companies, including FAANG and startups. So let's get started. So Nadine, if I am a non-tech founder, how can I understand what really is a tech product company? Simplify it for me.
Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to share my insights. So, to your question of really, what really is a tech product company? I think tech product company is essentially an organization that creates and sells technology-based products, right? So that's a very fundamental definition of a tech product company, and these products could include things like software, hardware, or potentially even combination of both the things. So uh, look at the big kind of software companies in the world. You have Google, you have Microsoft, you have Atlassian that has tools for project management and uh, code repository management tools and things like that. And then you have, of course, companies like Apple that also manufacture hardware. So fundamentally, that is what tech product companies. But um, if you are a non-tech founder and you are really wondering that how should you look at a tech product company, it's essentially um, a company that uses technology as its main competitive advantage. Like for example, if you have a private label which is selling T-shirts with unique prints, over Shopify, you are not a tech product company. You are just an e-commerce company. Your competitive advantage is probably the fabric that you are using to craft your T-shirts or the designs that you are printing on the T-shirts. But um, in that particular operation, tech is not really your competitive advantage. Whereas if you build a platform that lets businesses create an online store like Shopify, for example, and set up their own e-commerce stores online, and enable them to sell goods, accept payments, etc., all at the click of a button. You have that product, and various other e-commerce brands then start using that product. Then that's when you become a tech product company. So I think that uh, because your main business is the product itself, your main business is not really selling different goods as part of that particular product that you own. Or another example could be something like, we can take a more sort of a simpler example like Mailshake or SendGrid, right? These kind of companies, Mailgun, these kind of companies let you send email, right? So you can configure a email template, you can define rules, and and you can schedule an email blast and things like that. So and they have typically an API that can be used by programmers to bake in that functionality into their products. So essentially, this is what a tech product company is, right? Its main mainstay or main competitive advantage is that product itself, not any other good or any service.
That makes sense, but delving deeper into this, how is a tech product company different from a service company?
We are specifically comparing tech product companies and service companies, then basically, you can basically take three dimensions, right? One is the product development focus. The second would be scalability, and the third would be the revenue models. Because these two kinds of companies, they really differ in these three dimensions. So if you talk of product development focus, obviously, like we have discussed it already, the tech product companies have a technology based product, a software or a hardware, and that's what their entire business model revolves around: creating a tangible product. And then uh, once you build a product, you can sell the same product to multiple customers. Now, service companies are different because they are focusing on providing services, right? So consulting, it could be maintenance, it could be custom development or things like that, and their revenue is usually tied to the time and expertise involved rather than a tangible product. So that's one difference. The other is the scalability part of it, right? So for a tech product company, products are often um, easy to scale, right, and distribute globally, and it involves minimal incremental cost. Like once you develop a product, it can be sold to numerous customers without uh, a proportional increase in production costs, right, and that potentially means higher profit margins. With service companies, that scalability is not there because let's say you have a consulting service which you offer to a client. Maybe you are doing some custom software development for them, but now a new client comes up which has a similar problem. What you're going to do is you will have to hire a new team. You'll have to hire more people so that you can handle that additional clients, even if it means doing pretty much the same thing that you are doing for another client, right? So it's quite possible. So now uh, this model is of scalability is like this model has less scalability because if you compare it with product based business, because it's dependent on the time of people who are working for you. So you have to replicate that set of people for every time a new customer comes in, or you have to devise some kind of an intelligent time sharing mechanism, bit of sharing resources between different customers and things like that, right? So scalability is a challenge, but uh, a product can scale theoretically infinitely, right? Because I'll give you an example. Let's say you built an add-on for the Google Marketplace, for example, right? And that add-on could be an Excel formula or something which enhances or solves a problem in a Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet. And once you have built it, you price it in a certain way, and you release it on their store. Then that's it, right? Then millions of people who are using Google Documents can have access to your product. They can download it and keep using it, and you will keep making money out of it. um, of course, you'll have to provide a bit of support there, but it's not like every time a customer downloads and installs your add-on, you have to hire new people to take care of that customer, right? That's not the case. So it's the nature is of the business is more scalable. And then finally, you have revenue models, right? So tech product companies have a diverse set of revenue models. You can have one-time sales, you can have subscription model, you can do licensing. There are freemium models which are very popular. You give a free plan which has limited capabilities, and then you can upgrade it. Your customers can upgrade it to a paid plan. So the recurring revenue streams are more predictable, or we can say that the revenue is more recurring and predictable, and especially the case of subscription based products. For service companies, revenue is usually a function of billable hours, uh, project fees, or a retainer fees. There can be fixed bid products as projects as well, but it can typically be more variable income, dependent on the number of clients and the scope of the projects at any given point in time. So I think that's how another way of differentiating between um, a tech product company and a service company.
A lot of non-tech founders are hesitant to start a tech company. Do you think knowing coding is essential, or they can work around it? Also, what key advice will you give to a non-tech founder that they must know before embarking on building a tech product?
What are the three things that non-tech founder should look at? One, I would definitely say, get some understanding of the basics of the technology stack. Um, like you should know what is a front end, how different from the how it's different from the back end. Get some sense of different tools and frameworks. You don't have to be an expert in that, but understand what the technical stack looks like, how how data would flow from across, from the front end all the way to the back, and then then do the round trip. So kind of have that kind of understanding of the system. Um, the second would be, understand things like where is code stored. Typically it is in code repositories. A lot of non-tech founders are not aware that the code that they are getting built is their uh, fundamentally their tech, their competitive advantage, right? And that's something that has to be protected. So it has to be at a place where it can be recovered, in case of an accident. And the best place uh, for that is a source code repository like Git or Bitbucket, or things like that, right? So and they need to have admin access to that. You should be having, as a founder, access to the to this code repository, whether it is GitHub or Bitbucket or whatever code repository your developer wants you to use. You should have admin access to it, and you should be able to then add other users, other developers into it, right? So that you retain access to your source code. That is your intellectual property. The third thing I think is to understand things like your hosting environment and CI/CD, right? So continuous integration and continuous deployment. You do not want somebody logging in physically to your production environment and then putting code there, or manually changing things, right? You want to automate it, and you should have your development team, or whosoever is doing the engineering part for you, to automate the deployment, from the time the code gets committed all the way till it gets deployed, right? And you should have access to that system as well. And typically it will be part of, bundled with the code repository that you have. It could be GitHub, but it could be Bitbucket if you're on the Atlassian stack, but there has to be an automation there. um, so those would be two important things. Third thing definitely would be security. I think a lot of non-tech co-founders, um, or even tech founders, they ignore the security aspect, right? You should know that someone can do a denial of service attack on your production environment. You have your app up and running, and then suddenly you find that your customers are not able to use it because it is not accessible, because somebody has created a script, a malicious script that basically pounds your server with so many requests that it is not even able to serve any more requests, right? So you have software to protect from that kind of a situation. You can restrict people from certain geographies to not access your production environment or your web application, etc., right? So security is very important. Things like SQL injection, people should not be able to write SQL queries, or kind of database manipulation queries from your front end that could potentially go and create havoc with your database, right? And depending on what kind of product you're building, in which kind of industry, for example healthcare and financial, you would need to make sure that your data is secure at rest and in transit, so that you have SSL and all these things in place. That is fundamental. That is like 101 kind of knowledge that even a non-tech founder must have and must ensure in the engineering, with his or her engineering team. And I would also say, from a data, um, uh, backup and restore point of view, like what is your disaster recovery in place. Now this is especially true when you have certain good number of customers, right? You might still be a small team, but maybe you are catering to 100 or 500 or 1,000 customers. So you're still a small company. You are less than $5 million in revenue, but still you have a good enough customer base. You don't want to end up in a situation where suddenly you realize that there is a your database is down, and now you don't even have a backup of that database to restore it from, or the backup that is there is like 3 months old, right, or 6 months old. So now your customers will not even able to log in, or they have lost their data. So disaster recovery and focusing on that is very important. I think
these are some of the aspects which I would say the a non-tech founder should definitely focus on. Another quick tip would be to hire a technical advisor, right? So if you have someone you trust, it could be some tech guy from your network, or it could be somebody else. You could reach out to people on LinkedIn or other platforms. Um, they can do this advisory work for you, where pay them something, hire them once in a week. They can connect with your team. They can do a X-ray of your a bit of a code base, and ask your team the right questions, whether they have done the right things, right. Are they are your developers checking in username and passwords as part of their code, or are they using separate secure ways of accessing usernames and passwords, for example, or API keys, secrets? Are they leaking into your code, and they are part of your source control, or they are being managed separately, so that nobody has no malicious user has access to them? Those kind of things, right? What is your disaster recovery plan? How frequently are you um, sort of backing up your databases? So we are backing it up every day. Check. Yes, our passwords and secrets are not baked into our code. Check. Right. You need someone who can do this sort of validation for you, and a technical advisor can kind of connect with your team on a weekly basis, maybe for an hour or 2 hours, and kind of do that for you. That's one tip that I give to all non-tech founders. And that but those are some of the things that you really have to keep in mind and be on top of, so that you don't get locked out of your own system. You have control over the IP. You know where the source code is. You can operate it in the sense that you have access to it. Tomorrow you can add somebody else to it. You can remove users who have left from your team. Those kind of things. You have administrative control. And then that in the case of disaster, you have a backup plan, an option to recover fast, and recover to a full extent.
That was a great insight, Nitin. So what you are saying is that while it is not essential for founders to be coders themselves, they do need to have at least these 4 skills. 1. Understand the basic tech stack. 2. Have access to the code repository. 3. Understand CI/CD and automation. 4. Do not neglect security and disaster recovery. And have an advisor to help you and your team with tech direction and provide honest feedback. Does that sound about right?
Is it pretty well, Hannah? That's an accurate summary, I would say.
That's all in today's episode for the Founders Tech Playbook podcast. This is Hannah and Nitin signing off.